Well, the Raptors make it a game, but fall just short to the Chicago Bulls, 111-105. I'm Randy Urban, and this is Raptors Night Cap. Tonight, we're joined by just Sherman Hamilton and Paul Jones. Fellas.
Just? What are you just?
Thank you.
What is that about?
Thank you.
I meant just like 2 out of 3.
Wow.
Tonight on the show, the B team.
No, I didn't mean it like that. That's for that Grayson Allen stuff last time, Sherman. That's what you did. All right, let's talk about the game. Sure, the Raptors started to claw back in that third quarter, close to pulling this one out. They did take the lead. What was your first reaction to the loss?
You know, I just think that, again, you dig that deficit, and it's become something of a theme throughout the course of the season that they're giving up early leads. The first quarter, they're not consistently coming out and putting a stamp on the game. And, you know, if you ask any coach, how do you get a team to jumpstart themselves, get them going? It's one of the toughest things to do. Sometimes guys are self-starters, sometimes they're not. They got to get lathered up a bit, but it's just hard to coach when you see them, you know they're ready to play, but for some reason, it just doesn't work out. So, again, simple fact that they gave up a big lead early in this game, had to claw back, but the anatomy of the comeback is playing near perfect basketball, and you're not going to do that all the time. And they gave Chicago way too much confidence in that first half with how easily they were able to score. And you don't just take that away from another professional basketball team. They're not going to give that up. So it was a difficult uphill battle, and they were there. They just weren't able to get it done down the stretch. And Vucevic hit a huge three that really kind of closed them out.
Yeah. Jonesy, your primary reaction to the loss?
Pretty much the same thing. Like, you know, it was a tremendous comeback. Once again, the Raptors showed amazing fortitude and resiliency. But let's back up a step. Why are you in a 19-point hole? Why do you have to come back from down 19? And to Sherm's point, I think there are little red flags over the course of the first half and the start of the game, where, as Sherm said, the shooting percentage is high. If you're not scoring, then you have to dig in defensively and make it, even if they score, I was going to say, make it tough for them. Even if they score, make it tough for them. So you don't feed their confidence the way Sherm talked about. And they took some of it away at the end. I mean, the double teams and the pressure with the length and the athleticism, getting deflections and just forcing bad passes and people not moving their feet to catch the ball. But again, it shouldn't have to come to that consistently, because you need to be doing bits and pieces of that earlier in the game. So great resiliency. Man, this team has a lot of heart. They're now 7-9 in games, top 10 in games where it's 3 points or less with a minute to go. But the record is now 7-9. You got to clean some of that up, and some of that you won't have close games if you do some of your work early.
Sherm, that technical on Trent that ended up, eliminating from the game. Did you think that was warranted? It kind of took the wind out of the sails a little bit for the Raptors, I found.
Yeah, I didn't like it. You just, if you're Gary Trent Jr., you got to be a bit more aware of the situation and understand that it's a tough game. There's been some technicals already. You were involved with one. When you know that you already have one, you've got to walk that tightrope. And he should have known better. Now, he did, I feel, get fouled on that shot, but it's just unfortunate that he wasn't able to just kind of keep himself under control and not get that tech as my man Jack checks in.
Jack's back, baby.
Yes, sir. But I just think he's got to, that's all right. I just think he's got to be more aware. You got a technical. You made a tough bucket. You thought you got fouled. Maybe run down to the defensive end, and have a conversation official while you're playing defense. But that demonstrative, slapping the arm saying, where's the foul? You're just not going to get away with that very often.
That's what did it, Randy, to me. He showed the official up by clapping and going like this right in front of him. You can complain in baseball. You can complain about balls and strikes if you're the catcher. Just don't turn around, as Sherm said, right? Talk to him as you're running back. You can say all you want without magic words. Nobody's being shown up. But the minute you clap in a ref's face and make signals and swipe at him, they're not going to take that.
And Jack, thanks for jumping on here. Sorry we started without you. Just which I thought, just to jump on what Sherm said, I thought was a good point. Like the game had kind of, you had technical fouls between Vucevic and Trent before. DeRozan had gotten one. The refs were not really in a position to let more of that stuff go, even though the game, the stakes were high at that point. Is that fair to say, or?
No, it's very fair to say. And, I think when you reach a point where things get a little bit out of line, you got to put your foot down at that moment, and you got to make sure that nothing else happens to that point. So to me, I think they acted the right way. It just, the thing that you look at in this whole situation is the fact that, players have to know the line too. You mentioned the referees. I think players have to reach a point, look around and go, hold on a minute. This is how the game's being officiated. They've handled these situations prior. They're going to be really quick with the whistle. I have to make sure I handle myself accordingly as well.
Sherm, just the defense on DeMar, what'd you think of that? Because, obviously great first half, slow second half, but big play down the stretch there with that pass.
Well, I mean, DeMar's numbers speak for itself. I mean, he shot a great field goal percentage. He assisted, he rebounded. The double team, I think, did what it was supposed to do primarily down the stretch of the game. They needed to get the ball out of his hands. He was too good of a playmaker.
I think a third guy was coming out.
Yeah. I mean, even sometimes, to your point, they overhelped on the truck. But you needed to get the ball out of his hands. And I thought that this was something that probably could have helped earlier in the game. But DeMar, to his credit, when he didn't turn it over, got off the ball, and his teammates weren't able to help them. And that was what helped the Raptors create turnovers, create the ability to force tough shots and now push the ball in transition and find some offensive opportunities. But again, when you have a player like that who can just pick you apart, whether you guard him one-on-one and he scores, or you track a second defender on his terms and then he makes a play. I thought they dictated those double teams on the Raptors' terms, and DeMar, he was a bit shaky at times, but his team couldn't help him, and that ultimately is the goal. If you can't turn him over, make someone else make the decision, and that's what helped them come back in this game.
And Jonesy, on the other side with Siakam, although he had 7 assists and played pretty well, down the stretch, I thought the Bulls were doing a pretty good job of neutralizing him. What were they doing?
Yeah, they made him work. He missed some shots. I'll say that, but they made him work. They were physical with him. Even the times when he was able to get into the lane, they contested shots. They put their body on him. He had a tough night. Some of it them, some of it him. But Chicago's mindset was, we know this guy's at the top of the scouting report. Whatever he gets from us, he's going to have to work for it. Whatever he gets, we're going to make him work for it.
So, Jack, how would he counter that sort of situation going forward? Like what makes him take that next step? Because you're going to get that now night in and night out, especially if other teams see that it kind of worked.
Well, some of it is based upon the people he has to play with. I think there's no doubt that dictates a lot. If he has a full roster to play with, it's a lot harder for him to be played that way. When you have people out of the lineup, it makes it more difficult. And I think also when you look at a guy like Pascal Siakam, I think the one thing that jumps off the page at me with him is just, he's not the biggest guy, So when you look like and you say, well, maybe he's worn down a little bit physically, and now you're sending a second person at him, and you're bodying him a little bit, and you're taking him off his mark a little bit. It makes it harder. So I think more than anything else, try to play with force, I guess would be the best word I would use, is that when they send a second guy, when they're aggressive with him, with physical with him, try to be as forceful as possible. But again, he played good minutes last night, played good minutes again tonight. You're playing a lot of games in a short period of time. And here's the other thing about his game right now that I think we forget. He's handling the ball more than ever that he's ever handled in his life. And I think it's a little bit different now. That's tiring. I think the minutes that a point guard plays is a lot more stressful than maybe the minutes of a center or a power forward. And right now he is a point forward.
And I love that.
Guys, I just thought.
Go ahead, Sherm.
Sorry, quickly. I just thought that Billy Donovan and his staff realized without Fred on the floor and watching game tape against Charlotte with the Raptors, that Pascal jumped out the blocks early in that game. He was aggressive. He was going one-on-one. He was abusing people on the Charlotte Hornets, basically with his quickness and his scoring and passing. And they said early in the game, we're not going to allow you to get your rhythm. We're going to throw the double team at you early, get you off the ball, and we're going to disrupt your flow because they know how good Pascal is when he's scoring and distributing the ball. But if they take his scoring away and force him to just be a passer early, then they're trusting that Pascal's rhythm is going to be thrown off, and it actually worked. And Pascal's he's going to have to adjust to this now without Fred in the lineup. Teams are going to get the ball out of his hands. Other guys have to help him and score and be efficient, but he's going to also have to understand how to get back to that basketball to create opportunities maybe later in the shot clock when that double team can't really get to him.
And Sherm, I agree with you. And I thought in the second half, he got a lot of help from Scotty Barnes. Scotty was a different player from the first half to the second half. I thought he was much more aggressive and more willing to, as you would say, be in the fight in the second half. And I don't know what it was in the first half, but OG gets into foul trouble. They're not aggressive. Pascal's had his rhythm disrupted, and they're down 19. And then second half, OG plays with the 3 fouls. Scotty's more aggressive. They start making shots. The defense gives them some confidence, and it was just they dug too big a hole. But you're right, though, Sherm. Pascal was certainly at the center of it when Chicago was doing their scouting report.
Just one thing. I think when you look at the challenges that you have sometime with all these injuries and guys being out of the lineup, you still get a greater appreciation for what your roster is, what you have, where guys are at in their game, and how you need to improve your roster. So in spite of whatever challenges you might have, the ball is in Scotty Barnes' hands more tonight in the second half. You get a better understanding of what he can and can't do, what his recognition is on the floor, the plays he has to make. And to me, I think it helps you be a better coach. It helps you as an organization better because that player now, you have a better sense of what their pros are, what their cons are. So in spite of the fact that sometimes you have those challenges and the ups and downs of winning and losing, I still think in a moment like this, when you have to dig a little deeper into your roster and you have to ask different things at different guys, I think it's a positive. I go back to what we were chatting before about Pascal. I think the fact now is you're like, oh my goodness, I didn't realize this guy was that good a point forward. Tonight might have been a little tough, but overall you're saying this guy's playing the best basketball of his career. This situation brought out more in him that you never knew maybe he even had.
Yeah. And Sherman, one of the things that, you talked about in the broadcast at half was the points in the paint, right? And it was just like, it was a lot. It was a lot from Chicago in that first half. I think they're on pace for like 88 or something if they kept that mark up, which is a bit ridiculous. I don't want to blame not having Birch in the lineup. So what's going on there?
Well, to your point, they had 44. I think they had 67 points in that first half.
Yeah.
44 of them were in the paint. I mean, they were dominating in the paint. And that's something the Raptors really slowed down in that third quarter. But, I honestly think that when it comes to keeping the ball out of the paint, you want teams to shoot contested shots. Now, you have on the perimeter for Chicago, two of the more aggressive scorers in terms of perimeter players and guys who can get to the basket or operate in the mid-range, the soft spots of the defense, in DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine. So you've got to really understand what their tendencies are. DeMar, you want him to shoot threes. He's so good, though, you can't force him to do it. He's going to manipulate the defense. Mm-hmm. But what they have to do is, I feel like they've got to be more connected. The issue with Chicago is that they shoot the ball well. I mean, they lead the league in three-point field goal percentage. So if you try to clog up the middle, they're going to pick you apart on the three-point line. Mm-hmm. But it's difficult. It's not a Khem Birch being absent thing. It's your perimeter has to do a better job at just squaring people up and keeping people in front of them as much as they can and contesting shots. Mm-hmm. You can't depend on your last line of defense to clean everything up. And it's not like the Raptors have shot blockers back there. They have guys who can make plays and can block a shot here or there, but they don't have shot blockers. So the perimeter has to do a better job of just keeping that ball at least squared off to a sideline so that it's not a straight line drive.
Guard your yard, Randall. Yeah. Like that's what they say.
Oh, you're right.
Like one step away, guard your yard. Keep that guy in front of you. To your point about points in the paint, and I keep coming back to this. I had a coach that I played for that, in our version of analytics back in the 80s when, you had your manager marking X's and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cross.
That was me in grade 10.
He used to say, that was me on the end of the bench sometimes. He used to say, if you keep a guy to their average or below, you got a chance to win.
Yeah.
The Chicago Bulls average 42 points in the paint a game. That's in the bottom third of the NBA. They had that at halftime. Mm-hmm. You're not keeping them to their average or below if they've got it at halftime. Mm-hmm. It was better in the second half. Like what happened in the second half, if that happens in the first half, maybe it's a different game.
Yeah.
So to Sherm's point, you just got to take on that individual challenge of guarding that guy. With the empty arena at Scotiabank Arena, and we stand in the second row doing the games. You can hear the bench. You can hear Nate Bjorkgren and Adrian Griffin, and you can hear guard that guy. Mm-hmm. And that's what it's about. Sit in your chair, get in your stance, and keep that guy in front of you. And if he breaks down, then you rotate and everybody's on a string. Yeah. But straight line drives and easy shots in the paint, you can't, you're wounded when those things happen.
And it's interesting. It's a great point you guys bring up. The great Jerry Sloan used to say, the word help is the weakest word in the defensive vernacular. And the pride of saying, I have this guy and I'm going to keep him in front of me and guard your yard or whatever terms you want to use. Ultimately, I think teams spend so much time talking about help and recovery, rotations, scrambling, all those kind of things that ultimately I think we lose sight of the facts that sometimes just the simple fact of keeping the ball in front of you, guarding it, and also, if you can't even guard it, at least directing it in an area where the help is going to be, where they can't get to the painted area, is an important thing. And I think sometimes when you play a lot of games, particularly on back-to-back nights, you lose a little bit of those details because maybe your level of preparation and you do a walkthrough, whatever the case may be, you're not as dialed into that. And it happens. Particularly, I think fatigue happens. You're a little tired. You're letting people get by you. And that first half, to me, showed a little bit of that.
And also, Jack, when you get posted up, when someone's like, it's the same thing. Take pride in kind of being, you can find that happy medium of being tough in your defense in the post. Like Kyle Lowry did a great job of that. People don't post up Fred VanVleet. And I just felt like at times they're kind of afraid to foul and afraid to be physical when they do get matched up in a one-on-one post situation.
Well, you're right. And there's two areas of that, though. Number one, the guy guarding the ball, what kind of pressure is he putting on the ball? How into the ball is he? Because the softer the perimeter pressure is, the harder it is for the post defender to actually get to be in the proper defensive position. And secondly, that guy in the post has to say, if I sit behind, I'm in big trouble. You know, I got to get either to a three-quarter position or flat out front, because if I get stuck with this guy and I'm on his hip, I'm in big trouble. And again, I think some of it just has to do with the fact that it's a mindset. You know, you look at the Raptors against Portland versus against Charlotte. You look at them against Detroit and then Milwaukee. You know, some nights you talk about having it offensively. Well, some nights it's also a matter of having it defensively and being really dialed in. I thought there were times the beginning affected the end.
Mm-hmm. Okay, guys, I know we've been long here. I just want to get you out on this real quick. Obviously, it's a 2-year anniversary of the death of Kobe Bryant and his daughter and the other people that unfortunately passed in that tragic helicopter accident. But I just want to ask you, because you guys have been around the game for so long, and you've seen, you know, you saw his entire career, and there's always, whenever I talk to you guys, you always have great anecdotal things to say and just great stories about, you know, these types of people. Sherm, do you have a favorite memory of Kobe, either on the floor or off the floor?
Well, yeah, I mean, and Jonesy was there for this one. We were in LA, and there was an exhibition game, preseason game.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, we were back at house of the arena we were in, and just kind of, and Kobe came out walking, and Jonesy said what's up to him, and then, you know, introduced us to him. And I got the chance to ask him. I asked him, look, when you scored 81 against the Raptors, was there anything that they could have done that night to change that outcome? And Kobe
I'm going to take
back,
my mask off. I'm going to take my mask off for the
Kobe
impression.
leaned back, and Kobe looked with this kind of like he smelled something that stunk, and he said, nah, I'm 6'7", I'm athletic. There ain't nothing they can do.
Yeah.
And I started laughing because I was like, that's what I want to hear.
Yeah.
Tell me how great you are, because you already did it.
Yeah.
But it was just a Kobe Bryant moment where he did it, and it was natural. It was like, this is who I am. This is what I do. It was an awesome moment. Josie and I were there with, I think it was Dave Leader as well.
David Leader.
I forgot.
David Leader.
Yeah, we were just laughing. It was a great moment to share with Kobe.
Kobe gave Sherm the bottom lip was the brown turtleneck. Like, nah, they couldn't do nothing. Like, nah.
Yeah.
And I was trying not
cool.
to laugh, but Sherm and I were like two little kids. My favorite Kobe story is it's an ongoing one. We're professionals. We're not much of memorabilia or autograph or, you know, like we don't have a lot of that. I have a few things that mean something. The night Kobe scored the 81, though, I did grab the score sheet, and the game notes also had in LA, welcome to LA, Toronto welcomes, or LA welcomes, Toronto radio, Paul Jones, Eric Smith, Toronto TV, Chuck Swirsky. Like it had all our names on the bottom of the notes with the date and all of that. So I grabbed the notes, I grabbed the score sheet, I kept my pass that night, and I put it in a plastic, like a plastic kind of Ziploc folder, like something like this that I keep my notes in. I put it in there, and I spoke with Nico Harrison, who's now the GM of the Mavericks, who was Kobe's guy at Nike. And I said, Nico, you know, that was history that night. I got to call the game. Do you think Kobe would ever? He's like, yeah, sure. The next time I saw Kobe Bryant, Kobe said to me, where's the stuff? I said, what do you mean? He goes, you want me to sign that, right? I go, yeah, but I didn't know I was supposed to walk with it now. He goes, man, be ready, man. You got to have your stuff. Then I started to finish. We finished our basement, and my folder like this got packed away in some boxes. And I saw Kobe again. And he's like, where's the stuff, man? I'm like, it's in a box somewhere in the basement. And it was his last year and his last game in Toronto for the Lakers against the Raptors. And I actually got him to sign. Eric Smith was all over his. We met him in the back tunnel and he signed all of it for Eric. And I said to him, don't worry, Kobe, I'll have it in February when you come back. He goes, February? I said, the All-Star game's here, 2016. He goes, you think I'm going to be back? I said, come on, man, don't. Yes, you'll be back. So there it was. I couldn't find it in February. He walks in and I get in trouble from the NBA because he comes over to give me a hug. I'm still trying to track down the footage because Donovan Bennett says he has it somewhere.
Yeah.
And they're saying, get out of the shot. I said, I'm not in the shot. He came over to me. And then he after a hug, he says, you got the stuff? And I'm like, I can't find it. He goes, man, you're weaker than a tea bag in the ocean. I go, I can't help it. I can't find it. And he walked away and he said, the next time I see you, you better have that stuff. I never saw him again.
Yeah.
It was a Sunday afternoon. Sherman and I, we were all in San Antonio and we got the news. And I didn't have words. I just had to sit down for a minute to take stock of how quickly a life can be taken away.
Jack?
Well, to just tag what Jonesy said and Sherm, when we all walked into the arena on that Sunday afternoon in San Antonio, the first person I ran into was Alex McKechnie. And I couldn't understand why everyone was just so down and so quiet. And usually, and as you all know, Alex is a character. He's a lot of fun. And he was very solemn and obviously told me the news of what happened and that there was a helicopter crash. So, to just tag what Jonesy said, I mean, it was just devastating because he had it. He had that nice presence about him. He was a gifted player. He was a great player. He also had just a tremendous determination and toughness. And a funny thing I'll remember is doing his last game in LA on radio with Jonesy. And in Los Angeles, the radio at that time would sit in the first row. Yeah. Right next to, you would sit on the visitor's side. You would sit next to the Lakers bench. So all during the game, Jonesy and I are doing the game. And I'll never forget at the beginning of the game, Jonesy talked about, this could be Kobe's or is Kobe's last game that the Raptors play against them. And he came by and looked at us and just gave us a thumbs up and he gave us the fist and just to kind of acknowledge. And all throughout the game, during dead balls and timeouts, he'd sit at the table with us and just kind of knock it around and chat with us. So to me, as much as he was incredibly driven and intense and fiery and a guy that would rip your head off as a great competitor, he also had a true sense of the show, of relationships, of the people that were in it. And once he knew you forever and always acknowledged you. And quite frankly, you look at today, there are a lot of players in the NBA. You'll go through the NBA now and you'll see guys year in, year out, and they don't even know who you are. And to me, I think Kobe was a different kind of guy that he knew people that were around every team. And every year he saw you, he'd always come over and say hello.
Yeah. I mean, remember, he would usually play on a Sunday and sometimes they'd get in on a Saturday and they would practice. And I remember covering the practice because that was kind of the time where not a lot of media people would be there, like a Saturday afternoon shoot around sort of optional thing. And he was there and it was just me and another media member. Surprisingly, I think it was a holiday or something, there just wasn't a lot of people there. He didn't have to do the scrum because it was me and somebody else, maybe another person. And he just did it. And we were able to just go back and forth, me and the other media member, I can't remember who it was, like just back and forth, just pinging him with questions nonstop, just like trying to get more, like trying to find out what makes this guy tick and all these little situations. And he was I just found him to be so gracious with his time. And that was at the height of his his career, where he didn't really have to be like that. And a lot of guys aren't like that. And there's a few that are the superstars that understand that that's sort of part of their job, is to also be gracious with people. And it's felt like he recognized that this was a cool, big moment for me, and that was just neat for him to sit there and like, just, take the questions and just not feel like he has to go, and I thought that was really neat.
Randall, to Jack's point, when he at the beginning of the game, when he did the powder and he wiped his feet on the thing and he nodded at us and gave us a little dab, the unspoken words were, "I'm gonna give you guys a show tonight."
Yeah.
Hey, you got your popcorn? You guys are in the front row. I'm gonna give you a show tonight, and he always did. He always did.
Yeah. Great stuff, guys. I really appreciate you going along there and just sharing all your thoughts and things like that. Really amazing. We're going to wrap it there, though. Next game for the Raptors will go Saturday in Miami against the Miami Heat, obviously, 8 p.m. Eastern. We will see you then.